Have you ever felt in your life that the narcissist was reading like a script? They were trying to break you down piece by piece. Do you know what? That's because they actually are. Yeah, literally, they're trying to break you down piece by piece, both energetically, physically, psychologically, emotionally. Once they get their hooks in, that's it. Narcissists operate from a predictable pattern of behavior, sometimes known as a playbook, but it's not a playbook. These are patterns of behavior, and this is exactly what I'm going to be talking about in this video. And warning, number 4 might be quite terrifying, so stick around to find out which one that is. Watch this video. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I hope that you're all doing really well. So in this video, I really wanted to look at behavioral patterns of a narcissist, to put it blunt. They're not always obvious, but the thing is, once it's highlighted, then it does become rather obvious. And then you can see it for what it actually is. And I've had a lot of clients, you know, when they first come to me, they don't understand it. They just don't get it. They're so emotionally entangled in what has happened, which is understandable, which is where you probably are right now, or maybe where you have been. Okay, and it is challenging and it is difficult to see the wood from the trees. But the fact is, once you do, you're like, oh my God, like, how could I have not seen this? But the thing is, because you're so entangled in it emotionally, psychologically, energetically, it's not obvious to the naked eye. Remember, we are invested in these relationships and these types of dynamics because that's how we understand relationships. That's how we want a relationship to go. We're fully invested in this. And of course, we have been manipulated to be as well. But this person falls short. And even though you make up excuses, even though you really want it to happen, and a lot of us fall for the lie, fall for what we had hoped it would be. But that's the thing. That is exactly the thing. We have to see the reality of it. So this is what I'm going to be doing in this video, pointing out all of the behavioral patterns that a narcissist will display. Okay, so the first chapter, grab a coffee, grab a cup of tea, some water, get your notepad, and let's begin. So the first thing that is quite obvious, but we don't notice it at first, is the value, devalue, discard cycle. This is the main operating point of how a narcissist or how a toxic person, they love bomb you. Step 1 is always the love bombing. They try to get you in. They want you to fall in love with them, for you to get hooked on them, for you to feel a certain way about them. And this is done through manipulation, if you think about it, because it's all so wonderful. It's so amazing. And look, you know, most relationships go through this. Most relationships do start off like that, like they're so amazing, the honeymoon period. But you see, the difference between something like this, which is toxic, versus a healthy relationship, is that with a toxic one, it's very intense. Things happen very quickly. There's a lot of expectations right at the beginning. You know, for us, it feels wonderful because I think where we didn't get the attention, where we didn't get the praise, someone suddenly sees us, we get the validation outwardly, which is because we're always the ones that are giving. We're always the ones that are providing. When someone else gives that to you, you feel great, you feel so wonderful. And I feel like that's where the hook, that's where it gets us. And we then fall in love or fall in this kind of lust. And it's very hard for us to break free because of our attachment style. We don't see things for what they really are. We tend to make excuses because our needs are being met temporarily. What we don't realize is that there is going to be a price to pay. You then have step 2, which is all about criticize and confuse. So the confusion comes from this person being really nice one moment and then them being really weird the next, like not themselves. But again, what we tend to do is we tend to make excuses for this because we don't want it to be that. We want this feeling, this euphoric feeling to continue. And it kind of doesn't, which upsets us. So that's why we make the excuses. So we let this person get away with a lot of things. And you see, this is where our boundaries are double-crossed, if you really think about it. We don't stick up for ourselves. We don't contain our boundaries. We don't show others how we would like to be treated. And so this person gets away with it. And that's why they start to criticize, because they can't sustain the love bombing the whole entire time. And you know why? You know why they can't? Because that isn't truly authentically them. That isn't who they are. So it is going to be temporary. It isn't going to be long-lived. It isn't going to continue because that person isn't that. And that's the illusion. And you see, that's the trauma bond. That's the beginnings of the trauma bond, because when we're missing that person, we're always going back, or we're always thinking, oh, maybe this person is so lovely, like I really miss that person. But that isn't really them. And that's the issue. That isn't them. And I feel like, you know, we have first impressions as well. We make first impressions of people based on how they have treated us, how we have learnt different schemas about them, or different interpretations or impressions of that person when we first meet them. But you see, that's the thing. We always go back to that because that's how we got to know them. It's very difficult for our brain then to understand it and see it differently. So that's where we get caught out. So this is where they confuse us and they criticize us. They say everything is our fault. They say that we do everything that is wrong. And what happens is they leave you shattered. They leave you broken. They leave you on the floor, hoping and wishing that you could have them back, wanting their validation. And you see, that's the hook. That's in step 2, where they've criticized you and they've confused you. They've started that trauma bond. That's where you then want them. That's where you feel broken without this person. And you see what happens, this cycle comes back around again. And when they know that you can't take any more, they'll come back for you. And what happens is they will then value you, love bomb you, do all of those things, and the cycle begins again. So these are one set of patterns of behavior. So this is, if you find yourself in this dynamic, this is what you've got to look out for, okay? Because it's very important. Remember, it starts off really intense at the beginning, a little bit too good to be true, and then it dissipates as time goes on, and everything becomes your fault. The next one, Chapter 2 in this playbook of theirs, is the mirror trick, is where the narcissist or toxic individuals will become everything that you want them to be. Yeah, I know. That's what they'll do. You say you like spiritual growth, they say they love that too. You say you like horse riding, oh my gosh, they love it too. They're champions. That's what they do. It's very strange that somebody would do that and somebody would be kind of like 90% into the same things you are. Generally, that isn't something that happens. It's not generally something that is true. It's usually, I would say, they're telling you what you want to hear because they're trying. And why do they do it? Why do they do it? You know why? Because they're trying to create a bond, a traumatic bond. And also added to the fact that they don't have a stable identity, meaning that they don't really know who they are. So if they pretend to be somebody that you would want them to be, then you're more likely to stick around, because then that causes the bond, that causes you to fall for them, that causes you to not want to leave because this person is exactly like you. You guys are into the same things. They try to be this dream partner of yours. They try to be this person that you would want them to be, that they think you would want them to be. That's the difference. And why do they do this? They don't want you to leave. Believe it or not, they don't want you to leave. Even though they always tell you that they don't care if you don't want to be with them, they don't care if you go, that they will leave, that they will walk through that door and never come back. That's all lies. That isn't true. They don't actually want you to leave. You know why? It's not because they love you, because they don't really understand what that means. It's because you give them something. You supply them with validation. You supply them with the attention that they crave. And this satisfies their needs. They're never going to do that for you. But what you're doing is you are satisfying their needs. So they don't want you to go because that gives them a lot of validation. They feel good. This is what motivates their behavior. And although these could be really subtle, this is exactly what they want from you. So why would they want you to leave? But don't forget, they're not going to be faithful, so they're not going to just have you. There are going to be others on the side. So that's the difference. You and others, perfect life for a narcissist. And this one hurts. Chapter 3, my friends. This one really hurts because what they do is they weaponize your wounds. Narcissists study you. They don't love you. They watch you. They try to understand you psychologically and emotionally. And the reason why they do that is because they get an understanding of you. Do you remember how I said earlier in this video that humans behave in patterns of behavior? So when you study someone, you get to understand that person by the way that their body reacts to certain things that you say, certain things that happen, certain things that they feel. So you learn about that person without even too much verbal communication. So this is what the narcissist does. They study you. It's rather predatory if you ask me. But what they're doing here is they're trying to get to know you. They're trying to get to know what makes you tick. What are your buttons? What are your triggers? Because when you understand and know somebody else's triggers, you can use them against them, which then means you have control over that person. You have control over that person and how they behave, how they act, and how they interpret their reality. You can then change that, which is a great way to manipulate someone and have full control over them. And this is exactly what they do. That secret that you shared about your insecurity, they're more likely to say, well, do you know what? You can't leave because nobody understands you the way that I do. And that hook, and I'm sure you have heard it many times, that hook stops you from leaving. Remember what I said before? They don't want you to leave. They don't want you to go. They want you to stay because you provide something for them. The other one is the fake apology. They will apologize to you. They will say sorry, not for what they've done, but for the fact that they've got caught. So there's two different ways of understanding this. You've got the fake apology, and the other behavior is when they say they love you. It's completely different. It's another version of understanding this. The apology, they're just telling you what you want to hear. Of course you want to say, oh, of course you want to hear, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that for that to happen. Oh, I'm sorry this happened to you. Of course you want to hear that. You know why? Because then that softens you. You then start to let your guard down. You then start to trust them again. You then start to let them in. The only way that this narcissistic relationship will work is if you let them in and you keep them there, because that's how they are able to control and manipulate you. But if you don't, then it's not going to happen. Then this whole illusion will shatter. This is why no contact is so powerful. So remember that, my friends. It's like a mind game on steroids. You call them out, they act shocked or wounded, literally because they got caught. Then, I'm sorry that you feel that way. Or they might even say, oh, I guess I'm a terrible person, right? Never in any of those sentences does it say, I'm sorry for what I've done, to take responsibility, to be able to change the way that they behave, to take responsibility for their action. There's none of that. It's basically, I'm sorry I got caught, that you caught me out. That's what it is. It's nothing more than that. The thing is, what you have to remember is that true change, if you are sorry, you want to change something. You understand that what you have done is wrong and it's hurt the other person, and you want to change that. You don't want the other person to be hurting. But for a narcissist, this comes in loops. It comes in these fake loops of apology that doesn't mean anything. And that is to keep you trapped, going round and round in circles. So my friends, they sell you the dream. They sell you the relationship, the future that you want. They tell you all of these things, but the actions do not back the behavior. That is where you have to now become aware, because it's not because it's not what they tell you, it's not what they're saying to you, it's the behavior. Watch what they say, watch what they do. Does that match? And I feel like you can take that in all relationships in your life, not just the narcissistic one or not just the toxic one. Do people live up to what they say? Because if they don't, then there's an issue. And that person doesn't honor their word. And that is what you have to remember. It's about the patterns of behavior. That's how you are able to understand and read a person, including a narcissist. Once you know, you can't unsee it. Don't make excuses. See it for what it is. For a lot of us, it's not going to be the news or the information that we want to know. Of course it's not. But this is where we've got to be smart, and we've got to understand that this person is not for us. So my friends, if any of this resonates, please know that I do offer one-to-one consultations. Please see the description box below for more details. I also go live on this channel once a week. Please do check out the community tab for more details. And if you have liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.